Navigating Homeschooling, and today I wanted to give you a peek into one of the fun schooling journals by Thinking Tree. You can find several flip-throughs of these journals on YouTube, but I wanted in this video to show a completed fun schooling journal. Most of the flip-throughs are of, brand new, unused books, and I thought for parents new to fun schooling, it would be helpful to see what a journal might look like when it's completed. So in this video, I'm going to show you the fun schooling science curriculum all about space. Explore the universe, research, create, play, experiment, and learn. Now, before I get into this book, I wanted to talk a little bit about fun schooling for those of you who may not be familiar with these journals. And this here will show you just about how thick this one is. So I've been using fun schooling curriculum now for about a couple of years, and I just love them. One of the reasons I love the fun schooling journals is it allows your children to explore their interests and research independently. And I also like that these journals are appropriate for a broad spectrum of ages. And really, a child could do this book, and you don't need to add any other curriculum to this. You just get books from the library, books around your house, online articles, documentaries, and you're good to go. And I also like that many of them are available in PDF, and that's really great if you have multiple children. Now, some of the fun schooling journals are more generic, and a child can pick the topics that they want to study. This one is obviously a specific topic, all about space. And while there are suggestions of things to read and write, there's still plenty of room, though, for them to pick whatever astronomy topic that they want to research about. A child doing this book by themselves, it would probably take them a full school year. But I decided we were going to do this one as a family. Every now and then I like to have, kind of a family group study with my children. So it took us, we started about mid-April, and it took us to about the end of June. I think we did a few pages maybe in July. About 3 months, I suppose it took us to get through this journal, but that's because all 4 of my children were working on this together as a group project. So let's get to the exciting part. Let's look inside this journal. Now, if you're wondering, the ages of my children that I did this journal with are 14, 12, 9, and 6. And another thing, I want my children to see that learning isn't something you just do as a child and hurry up and get through, but I wanted them also to see that learning is something we should be doing as adults. So I want them to see me learning too. And so some of these pages I filled out as well. And so on this first page here, it says, draw or write 5 things you want to know about space. And so my 4 children and then myself, we each wrote something that we wanted to learn about space. And on this page, the first thing we did on the first day was go to the library. And so on this page, we got our library books. And of course, we had a lot more than 6. But we each put one of the books that we had. We drew the covers of them right here. And of course, I also have books at home on space as well. So we use more than just our library books. And I also created a playlist on YouTube, which you can find on my channel, Navigating Homeschooling. And it has the same title as this book, all about space, where I listed several of the documentaries we watched in the order that you're going to encounter the topic in this book. And so, and that's public. So if you want to follow along or use that, you can do that. Now on this page, you can include other resources that you're using. And so since most of the documentaries we're getting off of YouTube are secular, I also, we have a subscription to Answers TV, which is Christian, and they have several good astronomy videos there just to get, a more rounded view. And I highly recommend that channel. It really, the subscription is, I don't remember what it is, but we pay yearly, and it's really not that much. Now, there's several reading time pages throughout this book. All the ones that look like this I did those ones. And the book I was reading through is The Created Cosmos, and that's a really good book. And my son, who's 14, had already read it. He did a couple pages in here using that book though as well. And so it's not a difficult book to understand. And then for these reading time pages that look like this, I alternated these between my 4 children. So this one is done by my 9-year-old. And again, they just use library books or books you have in the home. There's several mazes in here. My youngest, who's 6, did this one. And then there's suggestions of topics to research. So this is, what is a galaxy? And so again, I just assigned different pages to a different child. This one, my 12-year-old, and she chose to type it up. And that's fine. Most of my kids do not really like to write, and they prefer to type. And so I just printed it and glued it here. And I used rubber cement because it won't make the page wrinkle the way Elmer's glue does. And then there's a lot of project suggestions throughout the book, and the kids really like this one. It's Galaxy in a Jar. You can see the ones that we made. I glued a picture of it here. And my oldest just helped the younger with hers. He didn't want to make his own. And then my oldest son did this, and he doesn't like to draw, so instead he printed up pictures to go with what he wrote. And then there's several of these vocabulary and spelling time pages. Since I have 4 children, I had each of them do a word for over here that they pick out of their books, and then they each had a different color pen and wrote spelling words out of their books. And then my 2 youngest children colored this picture together. And if you get the PDF, these pictures are actually in color, and they're really beautiful. The sun. And then there's more than one of these, so each of my children got a chance to do a page like this. The moon. And I have a camera with a long lens, and this is actually a photograph I took from it. It's not a great photograph. I don't think I have the settings right. But what was neat is because the long zoom lens allowed you to see the moon surprisingly well. And each of the kids took turns looking at the moon through the camera, and that was fun. It's another project. Then they have creative writing pages. Now this one, we took turns telling the story. Each of my 4 children would tell a portion of the story, so it was a collaborative writing project. We didn't do all of them that way. We just did the first one that way. And there's crayon. My daughter colored this in crayon, so just be aware if you color in crayon, it might transfer on the other side of the paper. But colored pencils are probably better, but for coloring large areas, she runs out of patience, so crayon's a little better for her. So here my son wrote about the Dawn mission, and then my daughter drew the illustration for it. We made moon rocks. Now the instructions said to use glitter, but I had a bag of sand and used that in place of the glitter, and it actually turned out really well. I don't know how well you can see those pictures. So here my daughter did this creative writing project, and she typed it up. Then it starts going through each of the planets of the solar system. And the way I did these pages is over here I had the 3 older children look up different facts. You know, I would ask one of them to look up the temperature and another to look up what the planet is made up of, and then I would write it down when they would give me the answers. And then over here, I would have each of the 3 older children look up an interesting fact about the planet that we hadn't already covered over here. And then the children, they took turns drawing the planet over here. And then for each of the planets, we also included a short section about the Roman god that the planet was named after. There's Venus. Another creative writing. That one's by my 9-year-old. And I just alternated these again between the older children. Now my youngest daughter's 6 and she doesn't write yet, so she dictated her story to me and I wrote it down for her. Earth, my 6-year-old drew this picture here. Another page I did. And then also for my 6-year-old, for her reading time pages, I read to her, then had her tell me something she learned, and I wrote it down, and then she colored. Oh, and then there's several documentary pages, like this one here. And so, depending on the documentary, if it was a longer, more advanced documentary, I guess, it might only be my older children watching it with me. If it was a more simple documentary, my younger children might watch it too. And then I took notes about the documentary, and then I had each child that watched it could rate it over here. And I used a different color of pen for them. Mars. Flip through these a little faster. So again, we're still going here through the planets. Another documentary page. Sometimes, instead of a documentary, just for fun, we would watch a movie, and it wasn't necessarily educational, but that was just to do something a little different. I wanted to keep it fun. This one was fun. My daughter wrote about, like she was from Uranus, as she wrote it as a diary entry. And I asked her why she aligned it to the right, and she said that's how she writes in her diary. I was like, okay. Solar system. This is kind of giving you an idea. You stretch out toilet paper to have an idea of how far away the planets are from each other. Here's a page I did. And then after I put this in here, I read it to my children. Create your own planet. Now this is really neat. While we were doing this, there was a total lunar eclipse, and I took these with my camera. That's while the eclipse was ongoing, and then here was actually at totality. And so, I mean, they didn't turn out great, but they aren't bad. And so that was neat. And then here is a projection box. We made a projection box, and this is what you used cards to punch holes in them to make a constellation. This is supposed to be like the Big Dipper. That's it shining on our bathroom wall. And then we did this one a little bit differently. If you go to Free School on YouTube, they have a list of videos about the myths behind some of the constellations, and we watched those. But then we went outside, and my oldest daughter, she picked out stars. We were pretending like we lived a long time ago, and she picked out stars and made her own constellation out of the stars in the sky. This was in the western horizon. And then she wrote her own myth about the constellation she made that she called the Anteater. So that was just a fun, different way of doing this page. And this is what kind of like connect the dots for the constellations. This is my oldest son from the Created Cosmos. One of the pages he had read in the book. And then my oldest daughter put this together for the different types of stars. And then we made constellations using marshmallows. That's a picture of them. My oldest daughter, she's really good at drawing. She drew telescopes to the different types. Another documentary. For this timeline, my son, oldest son, wrote in the facts, and then my oldest daughter drew pictures for each of them. So that's one of the ways they work together. Then we went to Flagstaff to the Lowell Observatory, and that was a lot of fun. If you have a chance to go there, I highly recommend it. It's very kid-friendly. The staff was really good with the kids and explaining things to them, and it's very family affordable. And so we really enjoyed that. And one of the neatest things I thought was during the day, we actually looked at the sun through a telescope, and you could see like solar flares. It was really cool. And then on this page was a reading time page, but instead I used it to write about the telescope we tried to make. It really didn't actually work very well, but it was fun. And they have these different pages where you can draw. This one's actually a photograph, the current phase of the moon, and those repeat throughout the book. Another documentary. And in this page, you're supposed to recreate how sometimes they have those, I don't know what you call them, but they have those boxes that they, you know, might handle sensitive material. And so that's what you're kind of recreating here. Only I think we were supposed to cut out a clear spot in the top so the kids could actually see what they were doing. They were actually putting together all these things in the box, completely blind, but it was kind of fun. And my son is looking very serious there. Okay, here on this creative writing section, I actually wrote a true story. Of course, you've probably heard about Kepler and his 3 laws of planetary motion. Well, I found an interesting story about how his mother was actually accused of being a witch, and she was in prison for something like 6 years. And even Kepler, and it's kind of crazy to think of this, even though he's a scientist and a mathematician, they were just so superstitious back then. Even he doubted his own mother's innocence, but nonetheless, he defended his mother using logical arguments, was able to get her free. But unfortunately, just the hardship of it all, she died 6 months after her release. So I thought it was a fascinating story, and so I wrote about it, read it to my kids afterwards. So sometimes we change. We don't always do exactly what the page says. You can change it for your needs. My daughter drew, this is a rainbow coming out of the sun, my youngest. And animals in space. So I had each of my 3 oldest write something about animals in space. My daughter drew that. Okay, this was really fun. Using baking soda and vinegar in an empty soda bottle, we were able to, you know, I'm just going to show you a video of this. I thought it wasn't going to work, and my son started to get kind of close to it, so keep your kids back because he almost got hit by it. I could not believe how high the soda bottle went. We did it 3 times, increasing the vinegar and the baking soda, and the 3rd time it went so high it flew over our next door neighbor's roof and into our other neighbor's yard, and I was unfortunately not able to retrieve it. So perhaps maybe going out into an empty lot or field or something would be a good idea, because it completely just flew right out of our backyard. It was crazy. Well, it's supposed to. We will find out. It's got to build up pressure. Where'd it go? So there's several coloring pages in here, just for fun. Okay, this is another project that it might seem a little scary at first because you're putting together your own robot, but don't skip it. It's so much fun. We made 3 robots. Now, I actually, and I'll put a link in the description to it, I actually followed a tutorial on YouTube to make our robots because it's just easier for me than to try to follow written instructions. And so, so we made 3 different types of robots, and the kids just had a blast with that. And my oldest helped my youngest with hers, and that was so fun. And I bought a kit from Amazon for, it really wasn't that expensive for a lot of the supplies needed for this. And so I'll show you a video of what, of when the robots were completed. All right, Timothy, turn it on. 3, 2, 1, go!
Now watch, you're gonna get faster. Good boy. Hey, Tommy. Why is it Tommy? Tommy.
Here, I'll turn it back around.
Oh, Tom. I get a little, woo! I get a little push. You start going really fast. Why is it Tommy? Woo!
Woo.
Oh no. Seriously, you got the bit of wreck.
Checkers, checkers.
Oh no. my robot.
Okay, back to the journal. Here, my 9-year-old was creating a satellite in Minecraft. And for these space drawing and note pages, you know, sometimes I would have just the kids draw something different or write something they'd been learning about. So this is supposed to be the surface of Mars. And my youngest drew this. It's supposed to be a galaxy. My oldest wrote about string theory. This was actually the marker our robot picture our marker robot drew. Okay, let's see here. I had each of the kids write about whether they thought there was alien life out there. And then here, my 9-year-old son, he likes Minecraft, and so he created a space colony in his Minecraft world. I took a picture of it. And then my daughter, she has Sims 2, and so she created her space colony and her alien family on it. And then, oh, these were pictures from the new James Webb telescope that I put in here. And then my son wrote here about exoplanet that's actually orbiting a pulsar, and it's named after a Norse or something. Yeah, Norse undead creature in mythology. So that's what that weird, ugly skeleton thing is supposed to be. And I wrote about this while me and my oldest son watched a video about the theory of relativity and string theory. String theory was kind of confusing. The Big Bang versus biblical creation. Again, this is Sims 2 and Minecraft again. My son and daughter creating a farming space to go with their colony. Then here I did a little math showing the force of gravity between Earth and the moon. This is formula you would use to calculate that. And then we also went to the Pima Air and Space Museum. And so these are some of this is the space portion of the museum, and my oldest son is pretending there to be an alien. That's why he's making a weird face. And why can't I open that? Okay. And here's another formula for calculating the tidal force of the moon on Earth. And this again is at the Pima Air and Space Museum. And I took a picture of this plane because it was called the Meteor. And then my oldest daughter is unhappy that Pluto is a dwarf planet. And so she created several buttons that she was giving out to her friends. It says PFPR, Pluto Fairness Planet Rights, because she wants Pluto to be reestablished as a planet and not a dwarf planet. And then for this creative writing page, I thought it was really neat. I wrote a poem for it. I think that's the only creative writing page I did. Oh wait, except for the one with the true story about Kepler. And then here's another formula for calculating tide generating force. So that's just a way you can show, you can use math and with astronomy for older kids. And this was the stupidest movie I have ever watched. And I'm sorry if this is a movie you liked. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It was just weird. That's all I'm going to say about it. But anyway, that was the last movie we watched, kind of as our final fun thing. Okay, so again, this is Leanna with Navigating Homeschooling, and I hope you enjoyed seeing this flip through of all about space, what it could look like when it's completed. And I think it turned out really nice. And really, when it comes to these fun schooling journals, it's all about what the effort that you put into it. You know, how nice it turns out at the end. It's all about what you put into it. And I really enjoyed doing this journal as a family. Again, a child could do this journal on their own, but it was just a lot of fun to be able to do it together as a family. I had fun. I think the kids had fun. So I'll see you another time.